It's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse with me as always. We got a lot of stuff to get to today, Patrick. Maybe some Twins, which we'll start with here in a minute. I want to talk a little Gophers softball, some NBA playoffs, a little NHL maybe for sure, and a little Vikings at the end. But Patrick, the Twins. It's I so last week went through this thought exercise of like making an entire lineup out of former Twins players. And Patrick, I must have inspired them because they scored 29 runs this weekend, a target field record apparently for a 3-game series, including 16 runs on Sunday. It's been a feast or famine offense this year, mostly more famine than feast, but they're starting to get a few guys going again at least.
Well, what was amazing was that the Cubs had a 60-run advantage this year coming into this series. They
Wow.
were like third or fourth in the majors. And what do they call it? The on Baseball Reference, what your record should be.
The
The record,
Pythagorean record?
yeah, their Pythagorean should have been 24-14 with
Wow.
the runs
Yeah.
differential. And Phil Miller told me that they were 9-2 in games decided by 5+ runs. The
Okay.
Cubs coming into the series. That changed yesterday and the day before when the Twins. Now the 11 was pretty legitimate, and the next 11 was pretty legitimate. And then they got 5 more against a position player
Right.
yesterday to get up to 16. But still, the what they got 18 hits, 32 hits too, right? Didn't they get
They had a
14
lot,
hits?
yeah. I didn't
And
see how many it was, but
I think it was what, and I know their team batting average went from 218 to 228 because
wow.
they, Friday night they were terrible offensively again. They couldn't
Yes.
hit, and then they come back and played a really good game and get 11 runs on Saturday and looked really sharp. And then yesterday, now I kind of felt Marcus Stroman's bubble had to burst sometime because he hasn't been that good for years, and then he'd been just great for the Cubs this year. But they started knocking him around and kept on knocking him. Now they got to hope. A week ago we were going to say, is Joey Gallo playable? Now we got to hope he's not hurt. He had to leave the
Right.
game yesterday. But he hit. I wasn't there Saturday. The home run that everybody was talking about, they thought it hit the parking ramp. They ended up coming back with only 422 feet. Is the estimate on that? What happened there?
I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense. But you know who makes a huge difference in this lineup? Alex Kirilloff.
Kirilloff. Yeah.
He is a professional hitter.
Yes.
He is somewhere in that lineup with Correa in a coma that he was in. They didn't have a professional hitter in the entire lineup. And the Kirilloff comes back, and he is a pure hitter. If he can stay healthy, that really makes a difference because, okay, there's 2 outs and the bases are loaded. He's not going to pop up like the rest of them or strike out.
Yes.
He's got a chance to get a hit. He's got a chance to keep a rally going. He's a true hitter, all fields. Hit a couple of home runs, which he's not really a home run hitter, but he hit one to one to left, one to right, and he really makes a difference. Plus, he's a first baseman. They don't have to play Gallo over. Gallo's fine over there, but they can play Gallo in the outfield now, and he really does make a difference. And now, 27 runs in 2 games is certainly we aren't going to see that again this season. But
Probably not. No.
it was because I was there Friday night and the manager was depressed again about the way they were hitting. They just before the game he was going about how they just are swinging at too many bad pitches in RBI situations and they're not having good at bats.
Yeah.
I think they might even had a hit with the bases loaded this weekend, which would have been a really historic event for those guys.
Well, they were 7 for 14 with runners in scoring position yesterday, so that'll help.
7. They didn't have 7 hits with runners in scoring position on the entire road trip that they just.
Well, they only had 28 of them total, so yeah, probably not.
Total. So yeah, it's that's the game though. I mean, the game is is totally unpredictable. How often have you seen a team, get get 2 hits one day and 16 the next, and the same quality of pitchers? So that's what makes it great. Is it's 162 of them, and it's if this team, we had a discussion. I don't know, it was you and I had a discussion with somebody, and before the weekend, we kind of reached the conclusion this team is better than last year's because of pitching, right?
Yes, I think we
I
can
mean,
say that. Yes.
pitching. So it's a better team than last year. And even though last year at this time I haven't looked, but they must have had a better record because they're in first place forever. But they they just didn't have the pitching. Now the thing about it is they're missing two of their starters. They're better with Ober and Louis Varland than they
Yes.
were with the other two guys. Bally wasn't that good, and Maeda was terrible. So now, but the trouble is, there's no wiggle room now. If somebody
Yeah.
breaks down,
There's no
there's
Ober and
no
Varland waiting for Ober and Varland. Yeah.
no. There's this Woods Richardson is not nearly ready to pitch in the big leagues, and they really don't have anybody out. Oh, LaBelle said Aaron Sanchez. I said, my God, he doesn't go 3 innings in St. Paul. It can't be him. So
Phil
I don't
Phil
know
told me
what.
the other day that Randy Dobnik pitched a good game in the minors. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, he could be next. He could be next. We got him signed up. We
I'm
got
locked up.
2 years. We got him locked up through 25, and then there's two extensions there if they want to pick him up. Yeah, that was the weirdest signing of all time. But that's probably who it'd be. And now that I think about it, because Woods Richardson isn't ready. So, but the other thing is, I think that you got to worry about Ober too. He's never pitched over 100 innings, right?
Right.
Never pitched. But I like him a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know what he does? He battles his tail off.
Yes.
As
But
Gardy would
guardyism, good
tell us.
guardyism.
Gardyism would tell us he battles his tail off. And Louis Marlin's last 2 games have been really good. So, I noticed this about him last year. He doesn't need a pitch clock.
No.
He is he gets the ball back and throws it. He is a fast worker. And I don't know if he was that fast before the clock hit the minor leagues or not, but it's amazing how fast he works, and I think that helps him too. I think the hitters really have no time to figure out what he's doing. He doesn't have a great assortment of pitchers, but he was really good yesterday. So yeah, and the good thing is, I think they've only had to pitch Duran once in the last 5 days, right? And that
Yeah, they've
he
been
did pitch 2 innings, but he didn't pitch him, and so now you go play the Dodgers, who just swept the Padres, and then the Angels, who are better. I think Otani's pitching against them on Sunday. So, yeah, it'll be a tough road trip, but at least they have some hope now of getting some hits.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
I want to circle back on that road trip in a minute, but did you see, you mentioned Correa scuffling, and he's been a little bit better lately. Obviously, he's up over the Mendoza line. At least he's gotten
Yep.
some big hits for them in the last few days. But I think it was one of the New York papers. Someone sent me this over the weekend, did a big piece on like, man, imagine if the Mets had signed Carlos Correa, kind of like
Oh, yeah.
a retrospective of what was their deal? Was it 12 years for him? How many were they going to give him?
Yeah, it was going to be 12 years and 315 million, I think it was going to
Wow.
be. And they died. The Giants was more. The Giants was 330 or something like that. So
That's right.
yes, but the Mets are terrible. That's the Cohen's was going to spend all the money in the world, and they've lost. I don't know. I saw it yesterday. When they lost 12 out of 15 or something like that. They're not doing nearly what they're supposed to. But I'm sure they're very happy they didn't get Correa. Although once Cohen got off the phone in Hawaii after saying, "Yeah, we'll do that to Boris," I think that the Mets didn't want him because they hired the same doctor to to look at his stuff, his medicals, as the Giants did.
Okay.
They made sure that he didn't pass their medicals. I think they got cold feet right away. I mean, because it was a spontaneous decision made by Cohen while he was having dinner in Hawaii, for goodness sake. So
Yeah.
Cohen, Boris has got to look around right now and say he's lucky he got 200 million. I think so. Anyway.
Yeah,
but he has a hell of a shortstop, and he'll hit some.
He'll be fine.
40 or 50 or something. I mean, the batting average is everywhere. If you're a 260 hitter now, you're good.
Yeah, 260 is the new 285.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. The only team that hits is Tampa. They're in 270s or something. They're hitting tight 270s team, but the batting averages are just brutal all over. It's the speed up rules have not. They did, however, the speed up rules and the shift rules did give Joey Gallo his first ground ball base hit to right field in about 5 years the other day. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah, that had to be the first time he'd hit the ball there in 5 years that there wasn't somebody standing there. So he got that for him. But yeah, it's I don't know what we got here. The great thing about baseball is you know, are you going to stay healthy? Are you going to the whole thing now? Injuries didn't used to be as big a deal in baseball, but then they invented the MRI machine, and that that increased the level of this was 30 years ago. Malley and Maeda still be pitching.
Just have a sore arm and a sore shoulder, right?
Yeah, he'll be back in a week. Okay,
Malley would have been right remember when he said, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'll be back in a few days. Just
not only him, but the trainer said the same thing. I was out there that Friday. They brought the trainer out, and he said, he might miss a start. Blah, 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 blah. I told him, next time you get an update from the trainer, don't bother to invite me to come and watch it. They never, I don't blame the guy, but they're always sugarcoating everything.
Right.
So anyway.
You mentioned the Dodgers series, and that should be pretty good. But Patrick, it's a mismatch. The Twins dominating the ERA battles and all the matchups. You got Lopez tonight, 3.47 against Syndergaard, 6.12. Got Bailey Ober, 1.85 against Kershaw, 2.36. Then you got Sonny Gray, 1.39 against Dustin May, 2.68. So they got him covered in all three games, just like you would have expected.
Sonny Gray was good again the other night. He had a little bit of control problem, but man alive, he's been fabulous. It would be nice to keep him healthy because he's been really great. He's had some problems in his past, so Pablo's had some problems in his past, but. They've changed the narrative completely on Rocco here. What, their starters have more innings than any staff in the major leagues?
Yes, I noticed that the other day, and I think Suhan had that in his column today too. That's something else.
But they haven't stretched them out to. It's not like they're doing it with 110 pitches either. I mean, they're keeping them under 100 most. I think they've hit 100 about 3-4 times maybe, but. They're still, they're getting them out of there on the pitch. But the fact is, they've thrown so many strikes that they've thrown so many strikes that they've been able to go 6 2/3 without throwing 100 pitches, which is pretty good. I mean, Varland had, I think, through 5 innings yesterday, he had 62 pitches. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, maybe last year wasn't so much an organizational philosophy so much as was their pitchers were not very good and they couldn't trust. Obviously couldn't trust Archer and couldn't trust Bundy to go.
Yeah, when you got Chris Archer not going 4 innings and you keep him in the rotation all year, that was just idiotic to do that. I mean, you knew that he wasn't going to go 5. So what are you doing? I know they might not have felt they had any options, but. And Bundy, now I will say in Bundy's defense, when he was pitching good, they still took him out after 5 innings. So, they didn't want him facing him the 3rd time around. I was listening to the Cubs broadcast for a while yesterday or 2 days ago, and they were talking about the 3rd time through the order with a couple of their pitchers too. So that's a That's not just a Twins thing. That's an
No.
everybody thing. If the numbers get a lot worse third time through the order with a lot of them, but these guys, it has been the case this year.
Your point about we'll move on after this, but your point about the Twins being better this year than last year, I think definitely holds. And I think the point, the real reason we can say that is this team. We know what this team does well. I never really got a sense last year for what that team did well. It just seemed like they were winning. Felt like it was a certain amount of smoke and mirrors to it too. Like I just, it was like, the pitching's okay, the hitting's okay, the defense is okay, but nothing felt like it was really good this year. At least the offense hasn't been great. I think they've got a little bit of room to improve, but the pitching, even though I would imagine it's going to regress a little bit, I think we can say right now that they have a pretty good pitching staff, rotation and bullpen through a quarter of the season. Even if it gets a little bit, flattens out a little bit, it's awfully good right now. And that's if you can do one thing well, at least, then you've got a chance to be, a good team because you know how you're going to win games. Last year's team, I had no idea how they were going to try to win a game on any given night.
No, I must say I disagree with both of my fellow columnists. Neil said it first, and Sue hadn't ratified it today about getting Buxton,
Buxton,
back in center field. No. If he can play, let him play, and Taylor's fine. He's not a real good hitter, but you can play Gorton against some of the real right-handers. But he's a good player, and he's not a complete out at the plate. And he's an outstanding center fielder. I just don't see they're not going to do it. I mean, you could keep telling them to do it. They're not going to do it.
No.
Buxton's going to be your DH. And the only thing Buxton does by being your DH is he blocks Jose Miranda. Who's,
yes.
That's about all he's doing because Miranda's, one reason they're a better looking team right now is Miranda's not playing third base.
Yes, and not making a lot of outs either because he was just struggling. Especially with the bases loaded and those situations with the situational hitting where was a lot better last year. He just hadn't done much at all this year.
No, and he's not an athlete. That's his problem. He's slow-footed and he doesn't really have a natural position. I think he is a hitter, but I don't think I'd rather have Michael Taylor playing center field than Jose Miranda being my DH. So that's basically what the difference is here. And the big thing you got to hope for here is Kirilloff.
Yes.
Keep playing him 5 games a week, 6 games a week. They really are right-handed hitting wise. They're a little short here because playing Willie Castro and Solano is not exactly a platoon here. It's like the Jeff Rebele era when they always
Jeff Rebele. Wow, that's a name.
Remember when they got Jeff in there against Gardy on Kelly's was it via Sunday lineup or what?
Sunday, the getaway day lineup, yeah.
Getaway lineup, Jeff Rebele. They kind of got a Jeff Rebele deal in there, and we loved Rebele though. He's a great guy. But
Jeff Rebele,
Milano is, they got a couple of these guys that you get in the lineup and doesn't get you real excited. They could use another right-handed hitter, but not Miranda, I don't think.
Royce Lewis, baby. How about Royce Lewis in a couple weeks?
True. Yeah, he'll probably be their third baseman, and that's because they played him in shortstop a few times, but he'll basically be their third baseman. Who's out then? Who's out? I guess one of those guys, Castro or Solano's out.
Yeah, Farmer kind of becomes your super utility guy at that point, and that's
thing about him is he gives them something they need, an athlete. They are very short athletes, and they're not terribly athletic. And even Kirilloff, as good a hitter is just a mediocre athlete. So
Lewis gives him some energy too, right? He's just kind of he's got a lot of he plays the game a certain way.
High class guy can maybe in the modern era not the modern era, the brand new era that stolen bases are back in. This team has ignored them completely because they're. Taylor is their number one candidate, and he's not. The guy who's overrated, though, the catcher, I think, Vasquez.
He hasn't been very good this year. Yeah.
I don't like him that well. I mean, he's apparently can run the pitchers and blah, 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 but he lets the ball go to the back, and he likes the high ones, man. He swings at him over his head with 2 strikes. So I don't know. He's okay, but I'd play Jeffers more if I was him, but maybe the pitchers preferred Vasquez. I don't know. So
Did you watch much NBA over the weekend? Your boy Tibbs. Sorry about your guy Tibbs.
Couldn't do her, man. Jeez, I don't know what that Spolster's a hell of a coach. And then the thing about Miami is a bunch of those guys have done nothing for him all year started making some shots. Duncan Robinson was stealing his money, and a few others, and they were making threes. And Brunson was fantastic, but the rest of the Knicks didn't really come along for the ride. And I think Randall was a little banged up, and but Miami is amazing, man. But they're going to get beaten 5 by Boston. Boston's good, man.
Yeah, Boston's so good.
That Tatum is fantastic, and Brown is a very good second star for them, and they're just once Philadelphia lost that 6th game when they got hosed by the officials, they did you see that the NBA report said, which they only do the last
the 2-minute report, the
2-minute report, or they had some kind of report. There were 13 calls that went against the 76ers.
Wow.
13 calls.
13 missed calls?
13 missed calls. 4 missed calls on the Celtics and 13 on the Sixers. That was a close game. And Harden got tripped. Marcus Smart, he's a goon. He had about 5 fouls that they didn't call. And but they're good. But yeah, I had hope for the Knicks, but they really never they didn't look good the whole second round. They played great against Cleveland. They took Cleveland in 5 games, but same old thing, making shots. NBA making shots. They didn't make shots. A couple of games at home, they didn't make shots. So, that's too bad. My guy Tibbs, I'm sure they're mad at him, but he should be back another year, I think.
We need a Tibbs and Cat reunion. That's what we need out there.
No, that ain't happening.
I know.
I don't think they'll get him, but I think he might go to Brooklyn if they're going to trade him.
Okay.
If they're going to trade him. Who knows? How about Nate Silver declaring the Gobert trade to be the worst in professional sports history in North America?
That's not good for our guy Connolly.
No, it's not, Nate. And people were arguing with him, and we still have Minnesotans who think that the Herschel Walker trade was worse.
Right.
And I don't think it was, because the Vikings still had enough personnel back. And but the people want to remember the Herschel Walker trade as more of a disaster than this, probably because we have way more Viking fans than we have Timberwolves fans. Now, this is not officially a disaster yet, but we'll see where it leads to here, right?
Yes, I labeled it.
Right now it has disaster potential, that's for sure.
I told Chip on a podcast last week that it's one notch above disaster right now. That's where we are right now.
It is. But it could slip into disaster territory. We still haven't gotten the lottery, right? We don't know where Utah is going to end up, right?
No, we do. Yeah, they're not in the lottery. They made the playoffs, so the pick goes to Utah. But it's we know what it is. Oh
yeah, that's right. They didn't make the lottery. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so it won't be that.
It won't be a disaster this year, but they still owe Utah 3 more picks. 2 of them are unprotected in 25 and 27. The real disaster, where it becomes a disaster, if Ant says, "Get me out of here." That's the real.
The real disaster is Walker Kessler is everything you wanted in Rudy Gobert. That's the real disaster. You had him.
Yes,
and you had him for a lot less money. He's more of an athlete than Gobert is at 7'2" or whatever he is. That's the disaster part of it. Is you had your guy and you could have signed everybody. Now, if I don't know, Ant wants out of here. Yes, you're right. Then all of a sudden they're totally out of luck. But the other disaster around here is. As soon as Laurie and A-Rod get control of the team, they're going to start whining about getting a new building.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. And people are going to be like, didn't we just renovate Target Center? Like $100 million?
Didn't we just renovate it? And B, the Hennepin County's not going to do it. They're underwater because of, the more of a social, the social things that they're into, that they're trying to help people out. and the city of Minneapolis is still stuck with a huge bill on the Ziggy Dome. So even with it getting paid off fast, the state's portion getting paid off fast, the city still owes them 600 million when you count interest or something, right? So
Yeah, there's
unbelievable.
not going to be much appetite here for
No,
stadiums for a
building
while.
a new one. No, that's for sure. So anyway, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it was Nate. I'm surprised to see him checking in on that
Yes.
on a tweet yesterday or the day before. So
Yeah. No, and I saw Cat was on a podcast with Paul George last week saying he was very surprised by the Gobert trade, that he's not expecting it, didn't see it coming. And I thought it was kind of curious that he,
why don't they give you a heads up on that?
well, you would think so. I mean, it sounds like he was overseas or something. Maybe it's an Aaron Rodgers problem where he needed to be reached on FaceTime instead of some other way. But he said basically that he'd been training all off season as a five, and then he got then he realized he'd have to be he's going to be the power forward. It's like you don't have to let your best players be kind of amateur assistant GMs, kind of like Correa thinks he
No,
is with the
no,
Twins, or Jefferson might be, if they're kind of catering to him with the quarterback in Minnesota at some point. But if you're asking a guy who's been an all NBA guy to switch positions, you might want to give him a heads up.
yeah, that's all. I mean, even no matter what, I mean, anybody should have given all. What do you think? Cat's gonna go on social media and say, "Hey, they're trying to bring in Gobert." I know, I
Right.
mean, gotta give him a heads up. I don't know. This guy has not been a PR wonder so far. I'll tell
No.
you that. He won't say he wants, but Washington's got to make a decision pretty soon, don't
Oh
they?
yeah, I would think so. We're only only like a month until the draft now, a month before the new kind of things rev up again, because the finals will be done by early mid June, and then it's draft and free agency season right after that.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like they're waiting for something out there, though, doesn't it? So,
It's a long, yeah, it is a long process, a longer one than I thought it would be, but we'll see. That team, I don't know. We'll see. They got questions to answer this offseason.
uh,
That's for sure. And the
gotta
play.
need. Why the Vikings are looking for the quarterback of the future? These guys got to look for the point guard of the future, because
Yes.
they're not going to be able to draft one. They're not going to be able to sign one, you know, financially. So what are they going to do? They got to get it. It isn't Jordan McLaughlin. That's for
No.
dang sure. And I don't think Walker is. The other kid is not really a point guard. So whatever his name is, Nick
Alexander Walker, yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's he looks like he might be a nice little off the bench guy, but he's
Right.
not a guard. So
No.
they got to get a point guard of the future. That's for sure.
Yep. Maybe in any kind of eventual cat trade, but I think their mindset is to run it back. We'll see.
Hmm.
I'd like to be Philadelphia, by the way, losing for the fifth time in 6 years in the conference semifinals, and they just got absolutely run yesterday by the
Yeah,
Celtics.
I watched the second quarter of that game when they started pulling away from a little, and I said, "There's no need to watch this thing. This thing is over." Jason
Yep.
Tatum, they're really not a good team. Philadelphia. I mean, they got Embiid, Harden up and down, and they got Maxi's a good player, but
Yeah.
they're not a deep team, and they had nobody who could hang with Tatum, who's fantastic, and they couldn't keep him away from the basket, and then he started making nothing but threes, and yeah, they had their big chance in Game 6, but I
Yep.
didn't think Boston was a better club. Boston is. I remember a couple of years ago they were saying, they got to get. Remember they had a terrible start a couple of years ago, and they said they got to trade Brown
Yeah.
trade Brown because he and Tatum play the same position. And yeah, you can always find room for two great players, can't you? That's my theory. So anyway, they should beat Miami, but who knows?
Right.
Bolster's pretty sharp, and Jimmy's decided to be a monster here for the postseason. So how about Miami, man, the capital of the world sports capital right now, with the Panthers and
That's right.
and the Heat in the conference finals. So anyway.
Opposite of Philly, which keeps losing all the big games, right? I mean, the Phillies and the Eagles have both lost the big one in the last couple of years, right? And then the
Yeah.
Sixers can't get anywhere either. least the
But Chuck
Flyers just keep
Fletcher,
missing the
at
playoffs.
least Chuck Fletcher took care of.
Yeah,
Chuck
that's
Fletcher
right.
took care of the Flyers having to worry about conference finals.
I forgot he was out there.
Oh yeah, he ruined them. He got fired, but he ruined them. So
That's right.
they're terrible. They were one of the worst teams in the league the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
So
Let's move on, Patrick. Gophers softball. I believe they've been in the NCAA tournament now every year, excluding the COVID year, since 2013. I think they are
really,
kind of a quiet powerhouse, at least in the Big Ten. They turned their season around this year because it didn't start that good, but they finished great. Third in the
yeah,
Big Ten, made it to the Big Ten tournament semifinals, and now heading out to Washington, Seattle again for the regional, where they get McNeese State right away. But that's they hit for power. They've got someone with 14 homers. They pitch. They're the formula's not hard in college softball. If you got one great pitcher, you're going to be pretty
yeah.
good, and they've got that. They've had that pretty consistently.
The interesting thing is I'd forgotten they made them last year because they were only like 26 and 23. I don't know how they ended up making it last year, but this year, they just got hot, and what was a winning streak, 12 or 13 at the end of the year, right before they got beat by Indiana in the semifinals. Autumn Peace actually got beat in that game in the semifinals of the Big Ten, but I think Washington is the fifth overall seed, are they, or something?
I think they're seventh this year. I think I saw seventh.
Yeah, well, they go out there. They must have. They have a chance. They can be one of the. They can. You're not playing one of the invincible teams. You're not playing Oklahoma, which is 51-1 or
right.
something like that. So, they go out there. They have a chance. They got D. Hartog came back, and they got this kid. They got another transfer who's been around for a while, and the other slugger they got another slugger too, right? I'm not an expert on it, but I haven't followed them that closely until the last couple of weeks. So, but you're right. They've drawn. They've had such a rotten spring this year that they didn't.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they packed them in like they have, but they when they have a good series like late April, if the weather's good, they fill that place over there.
Yeah.
And it's only 1,100 or something like that, 1,200, but it's a great little ball yard there, and it's funny if you're watching a baseball game. If the wind's blowing out in baseball, it's terrible in softball. They got to get it into the wind in softball if the wind's going the other way. But it's and Piper. They all like Piper Ritter. They weren't. I covered the 2019 World Series down there and a regional, and I thought Traxel was okay, but I know that when Traxel came to Coyle and said she wanted a raise, or she was going to Ole Miss, he said, "Good luck to you."
Right.
And I think they all, she wasn't that popular with the athletes for some reason, and they really loved the woman who went to Stanford, who kind of started this.
Oh, Alistair? Yeah, Jessica Alistair.
They all loved her, and she kind of got this thing cranked there.
Yes,
and Piper Ritter's been around for a long time as the pitching coach, and they got last year was a very mediocre year, even though they did make the tournament, but they weren't really that good, and she went out and got some and put this team together, and it's a great sport. The thing, fast pitch, I kind of got into it because they got to make plays so fast. It's one little bobble, they're safe.
The bases are so close. Yeah, it's
that's right. That's what I'm saying. I said, they bobble it, you're
right.
safe. And so it's a very rapidly played game. They didn't need speed up rules like baseball.
No.
They already had them, especially. And the thing about it is, they moved the pitcher's mound, 20 years ago. Maybe they moved it back 5 feet. Or before then, it was like soccer.
1-0. Yeah, it was like
1-0 was unbelievable. The pitching is dominant, but it's not as impossible to get a hit as it used to be. So it's a good game, and And who knows? They could advance to a super regional. The super regional was here in 2019 when they had LSU here, and they beat them twice. That was a team that gathered a lot of momentum late in the
Yes.
year, and then ended up going to the World Series. So we'll see. But I don't know. A lot of those games show up on TV. I would assume they're going to be on TV, but we don't know yet, right? Maybe not the McDee's game, but if they end up playing Washington, it'll probably be a television game. I don't know.
I would think so. I don't see any.
ESPN is full of softball at this time of year.
Yes, they are. I don't see any TV info yet. I do see, Peace is 26-7 with a 1.45 ERA, and they've hit 69 home runs as a team. Taylor Craft is the one you were thinking about. She has 14.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she got 14, and Dan Hartog's got 12, I think. So it's yeah. So it'll be fun to watch and follow them, and hopefully they can sneak out of a regional this year and get in a super regional, and then I don't think we can get her at home. Not a seeded, but I don't know how it works. They must be all bracketed now, though, right?
I think so. Yeah,
if you win the regional, I mean, they don't readjust it based on seeding or anything. I don't
think so. Yeah, I think you just.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what it is, but just just the fact that they've made it. I guess this would be 10 years in a row, excluding the COVID year when it didn't happen. That is a pretty good run for anybody. Patrick, final thought? Oh, go ahead.
I've always one final thought on that. I suggested this to Traxel and a couple others that if they just cheered less and saved their energy in the dugout. You could have, just sit there and relax. And if your team gets a hit, they make them cheer the whole game.
All the chants, yeah.
They got all this stuff and sit down, relax. You got another, sit down. It is too much cheering. They waste too much energy. It's kind of like volleyball. If I had a volleyball team, I'd stop celebrating every point. Relax. Relax, Sammy. It's a hard game. It takes a lot of energy. Don't waste it all celebrating.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I covered the softball team for a year when I was at the Daily back in the mid '90s. They were pretty good that year. It was Lisa Bernstein was the coach. I think they went to the tournament that year. They were a good team, but I had not really had much of a background in women's softball until I covered that team, and I think I even did a story on the chatter because I was so blown away by it. I was like, you guys just don't stop. It never stops.
No. I mean, they have a much more involved bench than other sports.
Yes.
The other sports, don't have that involved with a bench, so as they do in softball.
Patrick, final thought before we go. I guess Za'Darius Smith was right to sell his house or put his house on the market after all, because he's gone now. They traded him for what? They got 2 fifths back, and they traded a 6th and a 7th.
And they gave we don't know how much, but they gave Cleveland a little money for the deal. But he didn't do anything on the second half of the year, right?
He was really good the first half. He had 8.5 sacks in 7 games, and then he hit 1.5 the rest of the way.
Banged up, and I wouldn't. I mean, the reason the Vikings got him from the Packers was that he didn't play for 2 years after.
Yes.
He was hurt for 2 years, so I never thought there was a possibility that they'd bring him back. But I saw a bunch of people upset about it. I don't know, but it was, getting the cap, getting whatever they saved, $10 million on the cap or whatever.
12,
that certainly helps. I mean, if they paid some of it, does that count against them on the cap?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how that works.
I don't know, but and then they're going to get rid of Dalvin here too. But I don't think anybody's going to, nobody wants Dalvin won't take a deal, right? And
I don't think so. Yeah,
and nobody was. You can wait till June 1st and get him without having to take that contract on. That's the problem, right? I don't think. What's he making? 10 or 11?
I think his cap number is 14 this year.
Yeah, and nobody wants that Nobody wants to take that on. So they're hanging in there, hoping they can trade him to Buffalo or something. But I don't think that's going to happen. So they're going to just let him go. It's pretty obvious they're going to let him go. So then they'll be in good shape cap wise though. But there's really not anybody left to sign then by then, are there? Is by June 1st. Well, maybe some guys get cut.
I think they probably would. Maybe that second wave of free agency, maybe hit maybe one more corner. So maybe someone who's played before. That might be nice.
Like that, yes. That would be. They don't have much experience there, to say the least. So I think people are now. You got your optimists. The Viking crowd in general is an optimistic crowd, but the analysts, I think, are overly pessimistic about this team. I think they're gonna. I don't think you got to win over 10. 9 will get you a share of the division title, I think. And this idea that Detroit's going to be great, that never happens.
Believe it when we see it.
Any expectations for Detroit end up going in the tank. Okay, they just assume that it's not going to work out. So I think they're going to they won't be as lucky as they were last year.
No.
They're not going to be pulling out every game, but they're going to win 10, I think, 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't think that their defense has been destroyed in any way here by not having Smith or Patrick Peterson, who was, I think the decision on Patrick Peterson was made in the loss to the Giants when he was chasing guys around the field 10 yards behind them.
The Kendricks one too. The Kendricks, that was that game too. He was not good in that game.
No, he got old in a hurry, man. He gave him a lot of good effort. I think he's a Ring of Honor guy. And 5, 6, 8 years from now, he was a great player for them. But it went in a hurry for him. He was mediocre 2 years and bad last year, and that kind of came out of nowhere. So because he was the big spokesman for the team only a couple of years ago. So that he kind of faded. So
I think Kwesi's a get rid of guys a year too early guy, and Spielman was always a get rid of guys a year too late guy.
Yep, that's true. And Bud was always get rid of him when it was time to go.
Yep.
And before that, I always said with Bud, you might add some guys, maybe doing some chemicals that the league didn't approve and stuff like that. But if you didn't test them, you didn't have to worry about getting, the secret of success is don't catch them. Bud, I always got a kick out of Bud. Bud and Alan Page didn't get along, right?
Yeah.
Well, he let him go to law school and miss half a training camp for 4 years because he was still Alan Page, the best player in the league. Then, when he couldn't do it anymore, then he let him go. So, but it was, of course, it's a completely different league then because you didn't have salary cap situations because they weren't making any money anyway. I think that in the NFL, that's certainly the way to go, is to make the decision earlier rather than later. That's for sure.
Yeah, in a capped league, you gotta. Sometimes it just happens that way.
You love agitating Packer fans, but boy, there's no reason for them to be optimistic in any way as they're going.
Doesn't think so. I mean, they're definitely in a rebuild. They got to see what Jordan Love has got. Love did a weird contract where he, they kind of made it seem like they weren't necessarily thrilled with the idea of picking up his 5th-year option basically without seeing him play a meaningful amount. So he signed like
2 years. Did they give him 2 years? Or did they give him 2 years or just one?
I think it's 2 counting this year. So kind of like it kind of buys out the 5th-year option year, but it gives him a chance to make as much as he would have made on the 5th-year option, but it's a little bit more team friendly. It's kind of I don't know. It's not exactly a bet on himself. It's a weird spot they're in right now. They still don't know if he can play. And I love the Packers fans who want to take the 10 passes he threw in that one game last year and project it all over the place because we don't know yet. We have no idea.
No, but they're playing here New Year's Eve at 7:30 at night, but that's also the 16th game of the year. And so this idea that we're going to have 2,000 20,000 drunken Packer fans downtown is probably by then they'll probably be 5-11.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think we'll have the usual mob. But if we do, as I said on Twitter, God help the muggers if they think they're going to have any success that night. Mobs of drunken football fans will beat the hell out of them and puke on them if they try to give them any. God help downtown Minneapolis at 11 o'clock at night on New Year's Eve.
Oh my gosh!
If you get 60,000 people, only 38,000 of whom are dead drunk coming stumbling out of the Ziggy downtown, run for your lives, muggers. They're going to catch you and beat the hell out of you.
Oh, man. I forgot about that when the schedule came out. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. But the NFL must think it's the Vikings in Detroit because they got them playing 2 of the last 3 games.
That's what I thought, too, when I saw that schedule. That's fun, though. It goes Lions, then Packers, then Lions to finish it off. That should be a fun finish.
Yeah, well, you can't beat being in the Central Division, whether it's baseball or football.
Yes. That's for sure. All right, Patrick. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Mike.